Controversial land reforms in South Africa are raising tensions as the nation's white minority arms themselves to defend their farms against government seizures. One America's Christian Rhodes has a story.
White South Africans are arming themselves to defend their properties in the wake of the land reform advanced by the black majority government of African National Congress, or ANC. This comes amidst a tidal wave of farm murders aimed against white landowners in the Rainbow Nation, and Afrikaners claim the government's inaction on violent crime and the planned expropriations fall in line with the ANC's far-left policies of white genocide.
When you leave home, you can feel the animosity. It's like if you walk down a street, you can feel it's like your skin color depicts who you are, not your soul.
This comes as the ANC is seeking to seize Afrikaner properties in both rural and urban areas. Most recently, ANC leaders, including South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, reaffirmed their commitments to the land and property expropriations at a so-called land summit in Boksburg, Gauteng. The upcoming reform is simple. If you are white in South Africa and you own land, a farm or a city home, the government will take it away with no compensation for the sake of greater social justice.
Without the redistribution of land, we will not be able to build a united South Africa. Without the recognition of the property rights of all our people, we will not overcome inequality.
Meantime, South Africa's streets are mired in violent clashes between the police and the country's black majority, who demand the land expropriation reform advance faster. Left-wing radicals claim European settlers stole their land hundreds of years ago, despite back in the 17th century South Africa was a sparsely populated desert, whilst the Rainbow Nation's black majority formed as a result of mass migration from tropical Africa in the late 19th century.
The main thing is the place is very overpopulated. The families live in worse conditions, they sleep in the kitchens, and they sleep in the toilets.
The Afrikaner resistance movement says the ANC land reform would destroy the fundamental basis of South Africa's market economy, whilst also erasing the remnants of democracy in the once prosperous country. The ANC has claimed the lion's share of land in South Africa is owned by the white minority, but Afrikaner civil rights organization AfriForum has recently released new information on the matter. According to AfriForum, 24% of South African land is owned by the government, while an additional 34.5% of South African land is owned by black people. This renders the ANC's claims of 70 to 80% white land ownership invalid, and also disproves the claims the black majority is lacking agricultural lands, as up to 70% of land claims currently filed with the government pertain to land in urban areas.
There are three main reasons or three main methods in which white people acquired land in South Africa. The first was that there were in fact empty pieces of land in South Africa, and this is not supposed to be a controversial fact. The second was negotiations and treaties, and this is also not supposed to be a controversial fact. And the third way, which is the most controversial, is the way the acquiring land by way of conquest. And that is something that has happened. It was also common practice among black tribes in South Africa at the time.
This partially explains the ANC's most recent efforts to include urban land in the expropriations bill. Meantime, international investors point out the ANC's land reform could undermine South Africa's fragile economy, as according to a Land Bank study, more than 90% of farms redistributed since the fall of apartheid in 1994 failed and turned into squatter camps or subsistence farms. Investors also say a political attack on property rights would deal a massive blow to South Africa's investment appeal.
Certainly the sector does not support the idea of wholesale land expropriation without compensation. I think the whole land reform process to date has failed. It's quite hard to push at exactly which piece of that has failed. We don't yet have a proper record of the overall ownership of land in our country, which is obviously the place that we have to start.
Rampant economic mismanagement and mass migration are challenging an ever-increasing number of people to leave their country or die fighting against the regimes of corruption, legal thievery and political repression. This process, unfortunately, is becoming universal and has reached far beyond South Africa, including countries such as Sweden, France and Russia.
Either we stay here or we immigrate. That's the only two options we are left with.
So you think your choices, are to leave the country or perhaps literally to stay and fight?
Yes.
Kill or be killed.
Yes.
The looming escalation of violence in South Africa is bringing the Rainbow Nation closer to a full-scale civil war over the nation's economic demise of the past 20 years, which has been racialized and politicized by the far-left ANC leadership. This, however, doesn't mean the farm murders and attempts to dispossess Afrikaners of their property will remain unanswered, as the number of Afrikaner commando training camps is growing exponentially in the face of the ANC tyranny.
You can't leave this place, really. Sorry.
Christian Rose, One American News.
We can use your help. Call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call today